The call came in on a Tuesday afternoon. The account number matched my social security number. The case number I opened matched her home address. My name is Agent Trina Vance, and at 31 years old, I work as a federal fraud investigator for the Office of the Inspector General. My job is simple, methodical, and relentless. I track down financial predators, dismantle illegal operations, and put white-collar criminals behind bars. For 6 years, I have sat at my desk in a secure government building, staring at data streams, bank ledgers, and forensic accounting reports, completely unbothered by the darkness human greed produces. But nothing in my professional training could have prepared me for the moment my own official agency phone line rang, bringing a ghost from my past directly onto my desk. To understand how sweet the ultimate justice was, you have to understand the family I grew up in. My Aunt Brenda was the undisputed matriarch of visual pretense. She was a woman who lived for status, high-end designer handbags, leased German sedans, and the illusion of immense wealth. While my father worked long hours in blue-collar construction, Aunt Brenda spent her days floating through country club brunches, talking down to anyone she considered beneath her. And in her eyes, my father and I were always at the very bottom of the food chain. When I was 19, applying for student loans to put myself through college, my father asked Brenda if she could temporarily co-sign a modest educational grant. She laughed directly in his face at a family Sunday dinner. She told the entire table that investing in my education was throwing money down a drain, that I wasn't clever enough to succeed in the real world, and that people like us belonged in the working class where we started. That night, I made a silent vow to myself. I worked 3 jobs, slept 4 hours a night, graduated top of my class with high honors in forensic accounting, and eventually landed one of the most competitive federal law enforcement positions in the country. For 12 years, I maintained absolute distance from Brenda. I didn't go to holiday dinners, I didn't respond to superficial family group chats, and I built a quiet, impenetrable life. I was entirely done with her toxic arrogance. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly guessed, was that Brenda's glamorous lifestyle was a hollow castle built on a mountain of illegal debt. And when her own credit dried up 4 years ago, she didn't look for a job or downsize her lavish home. She looked for a victim. It happened on a quiet Tuesday in mid-October. My desk was piled high with ongoing case files when my direct office extension chimed. I picked up the receiver, expecting a field agent or a prosecutor from the district attorney's office. "Federal Fraud Investigation Unit, Agent Vance," I said professionally. On the other end of the line, a man cleared his throat, sounding exhausted and overly formal. "Yes, hello. My name is Marcus Kane from Pinnacle Recovery Systems. I'm calling regarding a severely delinquent master account held under the name Trina Vance, ending in 4092. The current outstanding balance across 11 sublines is $84,320.11. I froze, my thumb hovered over my pen. "Excuse me, you have called a restricted federal law enforcement line. Check your records immediately." "Agent Vance, I assure you we have verified the details," the debt collector replied, reading straight from his database screen. "The Social Security number attached to these primary accounts ends in 8812. The primary billing address on record for the past 4 years is 142 Whispering Pines Drive." A cold, razor-sharp chill ran down my spine, instantly clearing the fog from my mind. 142 Whispering Pines Drive was my Aunt Brenda's 4-bedroom suburban estate. I didn't scream. I didn't lose my composure. The federal investigator inside me took over instantly, shutting down all personal panic and switching into pure, lethal focus. I pulled up my agency's internal forensic database, typed in my own social security number, and authorized a full-spectrum deep scan. What flashed across my dual monitors over the next 20 minutes made my blood run cold. 4 years ago, right around the time Brenda's husband lost his executive position, my aunt had acquired a copy of my birth certificate and social security card from an old family document box my late grandmother had kept. Using my clean credit history and my spotless background, Brenda had systematically opened 11 separate high-yield credit cards, 2 personal lines of credit, and a fraudulent auto lease. She had been living like a queen on my name for 48 months. She bought Italian leather furniture, paid for tropical vacations, and covered her country club dues using cards stamped with my identity. To avoid getting caught, she had managed the minimum monthly payments through a series of shell bank accounts, ensuring no paper bills ever reached my physical apartment. But 3 months ago, her money ran completely dry. The payments stopped. The interest compounded. And the recovery agencies began hunting down the name on the contract. Mine. Brenda thought she was playing a clever game with an invisible niece who would be too intimidated or confused to fight back. She genuinely believed that if the debt ever caught up to her, she could manipulate family loyalty, cry tears of regret, or claim it was all just a temporary misunderstanding to avoid consequences. She completely forgot what I did for a living. I sat back in my leather office chair, looking at the mountain of digital evidence on my screen. I didn't call my father. I didn't call my aunt. I didn't write an angry text message. Instead, I picked up my office phone, dialed the supervisor of the Financial Crimes Task Force, and opened an official federal investigation file. Case number 882 Alpha. Target, Brenda Vance. Because the fraud involved interstate wire transfers, identity theft exceeding $50,000, and bank falsification across multiple financial institutions, the offense immediately crossed into high-level felony territory. For 3 weeks, while my aunt continued to attend her suburban luncheons and show off her designer wardrobe, my team and I quietly assembled a bulletproof case file. We subpoenaed IP addresses used to open the online accounts, every single one traced directly back to the Wi-Fi router inside 142 Whispering Pines Drive. We gathered high-definition security footage from luxury boutiques, showing Brenda signing my name on digital payment pads. We pulled bank records showing her transferring stolen funds into her personal account to pay for her daughter's private university tuition. Every single piece of evidence was meticulously logged, stamped with federal seals, and bound into a thick manila master dossier. By the end of the 3rd week, a federal judge signed off on an immediate search warrant and an arrest order for grand larceny, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. The climax of Brenda's 4-year scheme didn't happen in a dark alley or a quiet courtroom. It happened exactly where she cared about her image the most, her annual early holiday neighborhood luncheon, hosted in her very own grand dining room. It was a crisp Thursday afternoon. Brenda had invited 25 of her wealthiest neighbors, country club acquaintances, and local socialites for a catered 3-course meal. The driveway was lined with luxury cars, and the sound of clinking wine glasses echoed through her open front windows. At precisely 1:15 p.m., 3 unmarked dark sedans pulled onto the gravel driveway of 142 Whispering Pines Drive. I stepped out of the lead vehicle dressed in my dark federal tactical jacket, my badge visible on my belt, flanked by 4 armed federal marshals and 2 uniformed local police officers. We walked up the manicured front lawn, step by step, the heavy soles of our boots crunching against the stone steps. I didn't knock softly. A marshal struck the heavy oak door 3 times, demanding entry. When Brenda opened the door, a polite, fake smile was plastered across her face, expecting late-arriving guests. But when her eyes landed on me, standing in the center of armed federal agents, holding a stack of official court warrants, the color drained from her face so fast she looked like a ghost. "Trina," she whispered, her voice cracking, her hand trembling on the doorknob. "What? What is the meaning of this? I am hosting an event. You can't be here." I didn't answer her directly. I stepped past her into the grand foyer, my team following right behind me. The laughter from the dining room instantly died down as 25 high society guests turned around, staring in absolute shock at the tactical officers filling the hallway. I pulled the thick manila folder from under my arm and opened it in front of the entire room. "Brenda Vance," I said, my voice carrying with absolute, cold authority that echoed off the high ceilings. "I am Agent Trina Vance with the Office of the Inspector General. I am executing a federal warrant for your arrest on 11 counts of felony identity fraud, wire theft, and bank falsification. Gasps erupted across the dining room. Brenda's closest friend dropped her wine glass, sending red liquid splashing across the cream-colored rug. Brenda's face turned a sickening shade of gray. She tried to step toward me, reaching out a manicured hand, her voice dropping into a desperate, theatrical whisper. "Trina, please, are you insane?" she hissed, trying to pull me toward the hallway. "This is a family matter. We can talk about this privately. I'm your aunt. Blood doesn't do this to blood." I looked her dead in the eye, my expression unreadable. "Blood doesn't steal $84,000 from a 19-year-old girl who had to work 3 jobs because you called her worthless," I replied, loud enough for every single one of her guests to hear. "You thought my name was just a tool for your lifestyle. You forgot it came with a badge." The senior marshal stepped forward, pulled Brenda's arms behind her back, and clicked the cold steel handcuffs around her wrists. Brenda began to sob hysterically, screaming at her neighbors that it was all a terrible mistake, begging her friends to call her lawyer as she was escorted down her own driveway in front of the entire neighborhood. Every single piece of luxury furniture bought with my stolen identity was seized under federal forfeiture laws. The German sedan parked in her driveway was towed away before the afternoon was over. 2 months later, facing an impenetrable mountain of forensic evidence and a guaranteed 15-year federal prison sentence, Brenda took a mandatory plea deal. She was sentenced to 6 years in a federal penitentiary, ordered to pay full restitution, and forced to forfeit her home to settle her immense legal debts. Her social standing was utterly destroyed, her lavish lifestyle erased, and her real character exposed to everyone she had ever tried to impress. Meanwhile, my credit record was completely wiped clean under federal victim protection statutes. My father watched from the courtroom gallery as the woman who had once called us worthless was led away in an orange jumpsuit. For the first time in his life, he stood tall, knowing that truth and quiet hard work had completely dismantled years of arrogant cruelty. Now, as I sit back at my desk, looking at my badge sitting next to a picture of my father, I know one thing for certain. Real strength isn't built on designer clothes or borrowed status. It is built on integrity. What would you have done if you discovered a family member stole your identity? Would you have opened an official case or handled it quietly within the family? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to mention which city or country you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. Thank you for watching until the very end.